So the first thing you want to figure out is where is the organ of Corti. So once you find that, then you can kind of figure out everything else. All right, so this is our organ of Corti here. So let's zoom in on that just a little bit. All right, so we have our organ of Corti here, and sitting, well, usually it's sitting on what's called the basilar membrane. So in this slide, or in this particular section, the basilar membrane is actually towards the top. All right, so this would be your basilar membrane here, and then this section would be your organ of Corti. All right, and then you have this little membrane that's sitting on top of the organ of Corti. Well, in this one, it's pointing upwards, but it's usually sitting right here or touching the organ of Corti. So that's your tectorial membrane. All right, and then across from that, you have your vestibular membrane. So it's just a very thin membrane, consists of a single layer of cells that's stretching from this side of the scala media over to this side. All right, so this region or this cavity in here would be your scala media. All right, once you see your vestibular membrane, then this cavity over here would be your scala vestibuli. So let me show you at low power. All right, so that's our vestibular membrane. So this would be the scala media, this would be the scala vestibuli, and then up here we have our organ of Corti, the basilar membrane. So this would be our scala tympani. All right, so if we go over to this side, we can do the same thing. We see our organ of Corti here, that's the basilar membrane. So facing that would be the scala tympani. This would be the scala media, that's your vestibular membrane. So this cavity here would be your scala vestibuli. And then this one, you can actually see the tectorial membrane sitting on top of the organ of Corti. All right, so this would be your tectorial membrane. So right across from that, or sitting across from that, you have what's called your stria vascularis. All right, so this little section here, so your scala media, or your cochlear duct, that's bordered by your stria vascularis, the organ of Corti, and your vestibular membrane. All right, so just remember, once you see all three, the cavity that they're surrounding, that would be your scala media, or your cochlear duct. All right, so we have our stria vascularis over here. All right, so that's the only vascularized epithelium that's found within the body. All right, so this little section over here, that's our stria vascularis. That's your tectorial, your vestibular membrane. Sorry. All right, so it doesn't matter if I show you if it's flipped around or if it's this orientation. Once you can identify your organ of Corti, your basilar membrane, and your vestibular membrane, then you can figure out everything else. Alright, so on this one, they all have the same orientation. Alright, so if we go up here, all right, we can see a little portion of the macula over here. All right, so this kind of thickened layer of epithelium is your macula. And then if you look closely, sitting right on top of it, you have these little hairs that are sticking out above it. All right, so that's your otolytic membrane. And then you have these little cells, or these little dark structures that are sitting in it. Those are your little otoliths. All right, so this structure over here, let's go back to it. All right, so we can see the little hair sticking out with the otolith sitting inside it, and then we have the macula sitting here. All right, and then I think we found a slide with the cristae.
There's two, I found a second one.
Okay.
That one has a better one on it, the first one. The other one has a rusted wall that doesn't, stays intact. Right. Okay. Yeah. A little bit farther.
Oh, okay, here.
There you go.
Alright, so this one we can actually see the cristae ampullaris here. Alright, so what we have is this little notch here, kind of looks like a little hill, and then covering that is the cupula. Alright, so you just have kind of a little notch that's covered again by these little hairs that are kind of sticking out. So that's your cupula. So this little part that's sticking up, that's your cristae ampullaris, and that's covered by the cupula.
And where, can you zoom
So
out?
let me show it to you at scanning view first, and then we go back to low power. Alright, so remember, this is scanning view. So we have our cochlea here. So, well, this one is flipped the other way. Alright, so our cochlea usually below that, or if the slide is oriented the other way, sitting above it, that's where you would find your cristae ampullaris. Or over in this section, that's where we find our macula. Alright, so let's go to low power. So now our cochlea is sitting on top. So in this one, we're actually seeing the orientation a little bit. So remember the slide that we were looking at, everything was flipped around. So this one, this is our scala media here. So we can see our organ of Cordy here. We can see the tectorial membrane. This little thin membrane, that's your vestibular membrane. So remember the vestibular membrane, whatever is on that side, that's your scala vestibuli. That's your organ of Cordy. This would be your basilar membrane. So below that, that would be your scala tympani. All right, and then this would be our stria vascularis on this side. All right, so this one we're actually seeing the orientation the other way around. Again, our scala vestibuli, vestibular membrane here, scala media, our stria vascularis, the cochlear duct, the organ of Cordy, I'm sorry. And that would be your basilar membrane, so that's your scala tympani. All right, so below that, if we go a little bit down, that's where we find our cupula and our cristae ampullaris. Alright, and then over here, we have our spiral ganglion. So remember your ganglion, again, it's just a collection of cell bodies. Alright, so this would be our spiral ganglion here. Alright, I think most of the slides that have the cristae ampullaris don't have the macula, and then the ones that have the macula don't have the cristae ampullaris. Alright, so in this one we're seeing our cochlea here. Moving down. Alright, so we're seeing a little bit of the cristae ampullaris here. Alright, so just remember, if you see a little notch, if it's pointing, if it's projecting outwards, it's your cristae ampullaris. If it's a flattened section, then it's going to be your macula. Alright, so that's it for the ear.
Start the trailer.